entrance to the Gate of Divinity is adorned with pillars that bear a serpent mural. As one steps into the arena, part of the floor reveals cross-hatched patterns, reminiscent of a serpent's scales. In one of the DLC trailers, Marika is depicted wearing golden serpent bracelets on her arms as she extracts golden threads from a cloth-like material. Within the environment of the Divine Gate and any Elden, we also find pillars with spiral patterns reminiscent of a snake. The observed patterns, I believe, are meant to give us clues that the spiral patterns are indeed snakes. I believe you have seen similar spiral patterns spiraling around human remains somewhere in the lands between. Do you remember Rykard's arena? Apart from the fact that Rykard has metamorphosed into a serpent, his chamber is filled with dead bodies. What's more intriguing is the fact that in every location in his chamber where you find a heap of dead bodies, a serpent wraps its body around the remains of the scorched corpse. Just take a look at the heap of bodies on the ground. Then, look at the pillars hanging from the top. These pillars are similar to the pillars we saw around Elden and the Gate of Divinity. I have recently noticed that in most cases where there is a significant number of dead bodies, or more specifically, the shedding of blood at a location in the game, you will find a serpent or something with a serpentine nature nearby. Take Bonny Village, for example, where the shamans were tortured and placed into jars. A whip was used in the ritual at the Bonny Village to tear into the flesh of the shamans to create wounds. Just a short distance away from the village, we find the shed snake skin, implying that a serpent was in close proximity to the location where the shamans were tortured in Bonny Village. Moving on to the Windmill Village, where the women skinned their victims, we do not find a complete serpent, but we do find a god-skinned apostle, who is serpentine in nature. So, we have the Gate of Divinity, Rykard's chamber, the Windmill Village, and Bonny Village, all having blood shed and serpents in common. How do all these elements relate to the Formless Mother or Mother of Truth? The answer lies in wounds, blood, and fire. The Formless Mother is said to desire wounds, which naturally produce blood. Essentially, the Formless Mother desires wounds because they yield blood. We can connect two factions in the game to the Formless Mother: Mohg and the Blood Fiends. Let's explore Mohg in more detail. Mohg has the ability to cast a blood spell. But have you noticed the nature of his blood spell? It's blood flame. So, if the Formless Mother desires wounds, and by extension blood, why is Mohg's blood incantation intertwined with fire? Do you remember the version of Mohg we encounter in the Forsaken Depth of the royal capital? I am referring to Mohg the Omen. Let's take a closer look at the design on the carpet adorning the floor of the location where we battled him in the Forsaken Depth. We only find the same carpet in the Volcano Manor, a place connected to serpents. So, it is not far-fetched to connect Moog and the Formless Mother to serpents. Consider Moog's great rune, which is rumored to have been immersed in cursed blood. Why does the rune closely resemble a serpent's eye? Another connection between serpents and the Formless Mother is the item Serpent's Amnon, which we obtain from the temple of Igli, and the sacred bloody flesh located at the river mouth in the land of shadow. The last sentence of each item description is particularly intriguing. Notice that both items mention never running dry. I believe this is further evidence that the Formless Mother is connected to serpents. Speaking of the temple of Igli, have you ever noticed how the spiral pillars on the altar resemble those at the entrance to the arena that houses the gate of divinity? I believe this resemblance is meant to hint at the connection between the serpent and the gate of divinity. A recurring theme connecting the Formless Mother, blood, and fire is the spear. Moog, who serves the Formless Mother, wields a spear adorned with human beings, reminiscent of the pillars we find in Elden and around the Divine Gate. The design of Moog's spear echoes the blood rune of the Formless Odin in Bloodborne, another masterpiece by Miyazaki. So, Elden Ring is not the first game where Miyazaki has used the theme of a formless entity who desires blood. The connection between the spear and the Formless Mother is intriguing, as it suggests a deeper symbolic relationship between the weapon and the entities it serves. Similarly, Mesmer, serpentine in nature and the user of fire incantation, also wields a spear. The Blood Fiend's weapon of choice is a spear, and ironically, Rykard, a serpent, must be killed with a spear. This irony highlights the spear's significance as a tool of both power and destruction, capable of both serving and defeating serpentine beings. Rykard's blasphemous blade has the ability to replenish your HP, but to do so, you must take the life of another. It is almost as if you are shedding blood to sustain your life or acquire blood, highlighting the serpent's connection to blood. Continuing with the weapons linked to the Formless Mother, do you recall the Inquisitor's Girandol? This weapon is obtained by defeating the duo of abductor virgins in the subterranean Inquisition chamber of the Volcano Manor. I believe you would agree with me that it closely resembles Moog's spear, which he uses to commune with the Formless Mother. In fact, the item description for the Inquisitor's Girandol mentions wounds, blood, and flame. Could it be merely a coincidence that characters representing motherhood are adorned with serpents and have connections to wounds, blood, and flame, similar to the Formless Mother? I don't think so. I believe the virgin abductors provide further clue about the nature of the Formless Mother. These observations bring to mind a mural in Pevigeild depicting a woman holding two snakes. This imagery is reminiscent of a goddess often associated with the Minoan civilization. One of the most intriguing aspects of Minoan culture is their religious practice, particularly the worship of the serpent goddess. This deity is often depicted holding two snakes or with two serpents coiled around her arms or waist, symbolizing her dominion over fertility and the cycles of life and death. The parallels between the mural of a snake goddess in Pevigeild, the virgin abductor, and the Minoan serpent goddess may suggest a shared culture or symbolic significance, where the serpent represents both power and fertility. Let's recap what we've discussed so far. The Formless Mother desires wounds because from the wounds she will get blood. One of her devoted followers, Moog, uses blood flame incantations. This connection between blood and fire is significant, as it suggests that the Formless Mother harnesses these elements to exert her influence and power. The virgin abductors are also adorned with serpents, which reminds us of Rykard's nature. Rykard, a serpentine being, resides in fire, symbolizing the intertwining of serpentine and fiery elements. His chamber has pillars reminiscent of those found in Elden. On some of the pillars and floors of the Gate of Divinity, we find serpent murals and patterns. The presence of serpents in various forms, whether as adornment on the virgin abductors, as part of Rykard's nature, or as murals on the divine gate, highlights the serpent's significance to attaining enlightenment, especially about godhood. Serpents are often associated with transformation, rebirth, and the cyclical nature of life and death. It seems that Marika and perhaps some of the shamans revered or even worshipped a snake goddess or deity similar to the Minoan snake goddess. This deity would have connections to the divine gate or divinity in general. It is possible that Marika's allegiance to this snake deity was merely a necessary step to attain godhood, and the alliance was dissolved once Marika achieved her goal of becoming a god. As stated earlier, this snake deity would have been connected to fertility and the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. This serpent deity was also associated with runes, since the shedding of blood results in the release of runes. Thus, through the puncturing of the skin, blood vessel will release more blood. Then, after the wounds have released a lot of blood through hemorrhaging, the victim soaked in blood is burnt. This ritual is perhaps what we witness in the windmill village. I posit that the women of the windmill village burned the corpses of their victim after causing them to bleed so as to release more runes from their remains. I believe that's why the fire's deadly sin incantation, which can be acquired through Millicent's quest line, is located specifically in the windmill village. This location is not just a random choice. It is a deliberate placement by the developers. By placing the fire's deadly sin incantation at the Windmill Village, the developers emphasize the connection between the village's connection to blood, fire, serpents, and the Formless Mother. Maybe the theme of blood and fire in Elden Ring refers to George R.R. Martin's book titled Blood and Fire, a prequel to the Game of Thrones. The presence of the Godskin Apostle at the Windmill Village is therefore strategic. Perhaps he serves as a mentor or even an enforcer of the long tradition of the devotees of the Formless Mother or Serpent deity. And let's not forget that Windmill Village is reminiscent of Bonny Village, so it is possible that the ritual performed in the Windmill Village was a ritual performed by the inhabitants of Bonny Village in time past. If the apostles are connected to blood and fire, then one cannot help but wonder if the Glomite Queen was a devotee of the Formless Mother as well. After all, her nobles and apostles have serpentine features. Additionally, they wield weapons that can tear into the flesh of their victims, causing wounds which we have established result in blood loss. Also remember that the Glomite Queen used to harness the power of fire from the rune of death. So, we have all the elements associated with the Formless Mother at play when we consider the Glomite Queen. For emphasis, these elements are wounds, blood, fire, and serpents. At this point, I can't help but wonder if Marika was indeed the Glomite Queen, a topic I have already covered in a previous video. Anyway, back to Marika's connection to the serpent deity or Formless Mother. If Marika was a worshipper of the Formless Mother, then it is possible Marika sacrificed an aspect or something connected to the Formless Mother to attain godhood. This aspect of the Formless Mother is perhaps what we see as the golden threads she extracts from the sack-like material in the DLC trailer. There is actually potential evidence to suggest that the sack-like cloth is godskin swaddle cloth. A big shout out to KG for bringing my attention to a post from a supposed artist who claims to have worked with From Software during the development of Elden Ring. According to the artist, what Marika pulled the golden threads from is a cloth, although she initially called it a diaper. There is really no way to verify the information the artist provided. We have already established the connection between the Formless Mother and runes. Thus, it stands to reason that if Marika is obtaining golden threads, which bears a similar hue to runes, then Marika took golden threads of runes from an aspect of the Formless Mother and used them in an act of invocation. Perhaps the golden threads came from an embryo connected to the Formless Mother. A closer look at the trailer where Marika extracts the threads show at least a drop of blood from Marika's hands, which might emphasize the blood association with the Formless Mother. It is therefore possible that the Formless Mother is a deity with serpentine connections who desires wounds because they produce blood. From the blood, she acquires runes, which are generated in large quantities through the burning of a victim who is hemorrhaging. If Marika had connections with the Formless Mother, who has ties to serpents, but severed those ties after attaining godhood, her actions could be one of the lies or hypocrisy the Golden Order was built upon. This is because Marika's Golden Order would have benefited from the ritual of a deity connected to serpents, only to later turn around and make the serpent an eternal enemy. Thanks for watching till the end, and see you in the next video.